Well, thanks everyone for coming tonight. We're fortunate to have with us for this ACMS in-person speaker series event, Jeanne Riaudel. She is a Ph.D. student at the Pantheon Sorbonne University in Paris, and she's going to be talking about multi-specific interactions, environment, and mobility in the Gobi Desert, methodological perspectives in human geography.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. I'm really happy to be there today. So I will start by thanking the IISNC, which is welcoming me in Mongolia for 7 months now for my research fieldwork. And of course the American Center of Mongolian Studies, which is allowing me to present my work today. And I already apologize for my English, which is not so good, but well, I hope it will done it as it can, you know. So yeah, I'm going to start this presentation, so multi-specific interaction, environment and mobility in the Gobi Desert, by presenting my initial master's work, which introduced me. How does this work? Yeah, okay. My initial master's work, which will introduce the questions and the methodology I'm currently developing for my Ph.D. So my name is Jeanne Riaudel. I'm a French student in Ph.D. and I first became interested in Mongolian language and culture in 2019 when I was starting a degree in Mongolian language and civilization at INALCO, which is the University of Oriental Languages in Paris, France, and where I met Charlotte Marquina, whom you may know, and who is now co-directing my PhD with Christine Raymond, which is a French geographer, and she works a lot about Chad and desertificate areas. And so I'm now in my first year of PhD in geography. So it was the discovery of this work in anthropology and geography on human, environmental and animals relation that particularly interested me and led me to carry out my first fieldwork for master's thesis in human geography entitled Pastoralism, Mobility and Environment in the Gobi Desert of Southern Mongolia, a study focusing on pastoral perception. And so I spent 3 months in the field from January to April 2022 in the summit of Shinjinsk in the Bayerhangor Aimak, staying with 2 herders' family. And my field methodology then relied on participant observation of daily pastoral activities, photography, video, interview, and the taking of GPS points whenever I had the opportunity to go with the herders to the pasture land, to graze the small livestock during the calving period, or to fetch the suckling camels, whether for twice daily milking or also to reorganize the herds as they entered the breeding season of camel. So taking these GPS points enabled me to produce a number of maps showing the daily routes taken by the herders according to the species concerned, and detailing as precisely as possible how the journey was made. So I went from this type of data here at the left, this was made on Maps.me, which is a fairly practical software because it works without a network and with a system of folders and colors that allows you to fill in each point beforehand, to this type of maps. So here we have a map showing most of the daily routes taken by small livestock with the color of the line indicating the person who will be driving them. So for example, you can notice that always in the really mountains area, it's always the herder, the husband of the family, Ragva, who were done it by himself. And in the more flat area, always the child, Tovshin, or Chimge and I, which were my translator. so can develop the importance of the natural landscape. Another example of this concerns camels. This is one of the longest journeys I've made with the herders to find and bring together a group of camels that were about to give birth. And so you can see the camp, sorry, the maps are in French. I didn't take the time to translate it, but the camp is like campement. They're at near from me in the white thing and black point in the middle. So you have the camp there and all the roads by motorbike in red. And all through this way you can see 3 points in red. It means that there he took the call by talkie-walkie. And then you can see we crossed a horses herd, also camels herd or a small livestock herd. And then at the end, far away from me with this blue circle, which means interaction between animals and herders. You can see he just went to the camels herd and bring them back near the camp, more near than they were before. So yeah, that's another example of map. But to better understand these maps, I think it's important to contextualize them. So first of all, the Xinjiang district is in the south of Bangor, here in red. It lies in the Gobi Desert at the end or beginning, depending of your point of view, of the Altai mountain range. And so the landscape is one of the desert steep at an average altitude of 1,700 meters. 1,700 meters, yeah. It has an extreme continental climate with a winter ranging from -35 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius and little rainfall in summer with sudden downpours. It is also a border district with China, where there is a gold mine that is becoming increasingly important in the region, producing some tension between the inhabitants, between herders and mines people. It's also a region which has a 2 days journey from Ubi, so it's quite isolated region. But maybe at the scale of Mongolia it's not so far away, but actually I think it's quite isolated. So I worked with 2 herders family, each with a very different way of doing things. Yeah, the first family's winter camp was a place called Sohanrotak, right there. And really in the, I don't know the word to say this, like downstairs, Sohanrotak there. And there were a couple in their 50s who work with their children to divide up the work over the year, but on several different campsites, particularly during the harshest season. For example, at the left of this Sohanrotak, you can see Anso Vuljo, which is the camp of their son. So they looked after a herd around 500 animals. For the small livestock, the camels were about 100, being mainly the responsibility of the son, except of the milking camels. They described their annual grazing routes to me as very stable from 1 year to the next, unlike the second family. So you can see the other family's camp at the top. And this family's winter camp is in a place called Rajortak, and whose movements seemed to be much more irregular. They worked mainly as a couple, with their only daughter working in the town, in Emak, actually in Bangor, and owned around 400 goats and sheep, around 100 camels, and also some horse, like 20 horses, which is the sign of wealth in the region, and as it is necessary to feed them. The two families are very different, but in both cases they expressed their concern about the increase in annual climate variability, which is a consequence of climate change, global climate change in Mongolia. For example, the herders showed me plants which they didn't knew the names, and they regularly talked about the phenomenon of desertification, Tsurchit in Mongolian. So my job, of course, is not to assess the capacity of pasture lands and how they are changing, because I don't have the skills to do this. But I am interested in this emic view or diversity, as it is probably influences the annual and daily grazing patterns of herders and their animals. It was in this context that I became particularly interested in camel herding, because the majority of camels do not return to the camp on a daily basis and can be left several dozen kilometers away from the camp. This is a hyper-extensive type of herding. Most of the time, the herders don't know really exactly precisely where they are, and the search to locate them can take several days, helped by calls to the families or nearby herders. Herders know their animals inside out, but they also know their neighbors' animals very well, as they regularly come across them in the pastures, and as they are the focus of daily conversation at the phone, by talkie-walkie, etc. So, as we have seen, this is a desert area with a harsh climate, where both herders and their herds have to find economic or survival strategies to adapt to environmental changes on different time scales. So my hypothesis is that one of the first adaptations for this type of herding is mobility. So we adapt by moving more, by moving elsewhere, or by moving further away. The question then is how to study mobility that we have not witnessed, while the literature on pastoralism is clear on the fact that the annual mobility of livestock herders is largely underestimated by their discourses. I therefore took advantage of my second master's fieldwork placement to test a research protocol based on GPS device, which coupled with rigorous observation and videos would enable me to locate camel movement, but above all, to try and understand them. Camels move around an area that they know, but which is not defined. The limit is set by the herders when they come to reorganize the group of camels, as the map showed earlier demonstrates. It is at the moment of interaction with the herders that the camel's route is modified outside their own agentivity. We can therefore identify three main objects of study. First, human mobility, then camel mobility, and environment. So for this, to study these three main objects of study, I set up a GPS system to enable me to understand these daily mobilities on a spatial scale larger than the camp. I used 4 GPS to analyze the movements of each functional groups present around the camp, and 5 other GPS on camels belonging to the same herding family and located on remote pastures. These surveys were carried out over 30 days for the camel and took approximately 1 point every 4 minutes. This protocol led to the production of video tracing the journey of several camels. So here you can see the animation of the itinerary of 5 camels located around 40 kilometers north from the camp. The aim would be to establish behavioral models according to speed, direction, to determine which movements are under human influence, and which are not, and to define spaces linked to particular human or animal agencies in moving, grazing, etc. However, the limit is that it is not possible to equip all herders and cameras in the area, and it is therefore difficult to know who makes decisions about movement. In this animation, the camels appear to be alone, but because camels are never traveling alone, this can only indicate that his fellow camels or the herders who move him were not equipped with GPS. So this bias needs to be smoothed out by regular observation and interview with herders throughout the study area. For example, there is another. Can I go further? Yeah. This video offers another way of understanding everyday mobility. Oh, sorry. Okay. It focuses on one winter camp over 15 days. It shows the movement of the various groups that returns to the camp on a daily basis. So camel calves, milking she-camels, small livestock, and herders. Gradually, the space becomes differentiated according to species and days. However, tracking the calves group shown in green is misleading. In practice, only one individual was equipped with GPS and his fellow calves scattered throughout the day to the south of the camp. So I combined this device with field observation and videos. Each evening, the herders regroup isolated individuals in small groups between 2 and 4 camels, which can travel several kilometers a day in a very monotonous hilly area, as you've seen. Once all the cows has been rounded up, they are brought back to the camp to be tied up before going to find their mother for milking. These operations require a very good knowledge of the environment and of the animal's behavior. So one of the results of these initial attempts is that breeding other species does not involve this type of relationship with the territory. Here, the animal teaches its herders his own territorial practices. Also, to monitor the weather more accurately and see and have more data about relationship between animals and environment and herders and environment, I planned this time to install a weather station in each study area. So the aim of this field work is to study a pastoral area through the human and environmental prism with the analysis of mobilities managed by and for humans, but of integrating a sensitive dimension into the study of a shared territory constructed by the interaction between herders and their animals. All of this is, of course, without excluding the Mongolian cultural, social, political, economic, and environmental context. For example, one of the aims of this long fieldwork I now started would be to gain a better understanding of all the legislation that regulates also pastoral mobility at different levels, at different scales. Herders group, cooperative, laws, NGOs, MAC, government, and also presence of mine or not. Okay, thank you. And here you can find an indicative bibliography. Thank you for listening to me.
Do you just have like GPS recorders that you stuck on the camels? Do they transmit at all, or do you just send them out and then collect the data when you get back?
Yeah, I have to get it back to get the data.
It's really cool data.
Thank you. It's quite funny to see everything's moving here.
So, a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Was the herder present? I didn't get it. Present during those 30 days? All the time?
No. It was 40 kilometers away the camp.
From the camp.
Yeah, actually, maybe I can, because sometimes the motorbike of the herders also were equipped by GPS. But
Motorbikes?
Yeah, the motorbike, not the herders, but the motorbike. But I cannot go further on the video.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, you mean by camp is summer camp or
Winter.
temporary camp?
Winter camp. And sometimes in this video you can see a really quick red line. It's the motorbike. Yeah, like this. This is the motorbike. Quicker than camel, yeah. So it's not a lot that he comes to see camels.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these herders, 2 herders per families. So one family is, sorry, my question is, so you put the GPS for these 5 camels, right?
Yeah.
In terms of age and gender, what was the camel, these 5 camels?
Yeah, they
How
were.
does this behavior and impact on the movement pattern? I don't know if you have any idea.
About the GPS, the impact.
About the camel who has a GPS, is that the young or older camel or
Yeah.
camel or?
Actually, I didn't have the chance to choose my camel because they were really dispersed in the area. So I just went with the herders and tried to find 5 camel, his camel actually, and then we found the 5 camel and just put it on them. 4 was she camels, ink, and 1 was male, so just not a male in complete sense, but like this, and yeah.
Did you see any change in their speed?
I actually didn't, because I have a problem with these data, which are a lot of mistakes taken. Maybe you can see sometime doing this, and so the data analysis is now difficult to do without cleaning this data, and it's really difficult to clean it because it can't be the speed. Sometimes it's too well. I have to figure it out how to do this. I'm working now with ethologists, who are working on animals' movement and everything, so we can figure it out somewhere.
So this map is like 5 kilometers square, right?
Yes, I forgot to put the scale, but I think everything can be like 10 kilometers.
Okay.
Nice work.
Yeah, I think it's 10 kilometers.
So what was the longest distance each day they traveled?
It's difficult to know because of this mistake, but actually I think it's almost 5 kilometers. They do a lot of things like this, maybe because there is a wall, yeah, Prodig. I don't know, yeah, there, and so they are doing a lot of this displacement.
So this type of methodology, is it kind of common thing, like in this field, to do this kind of like research or something like that? Do you have an example that you can compare or like learn from?
I've never seen data like this, but with camel actually, I know the ethologists are working sometimes with this type of methodology, but not with camels, so it's not really comparable,
So you see the first one.
I don't know, no, I don't
This is
know.
Mongolia, like this.
You think? Because actually my Mongolian is not good enough to read Mongolian bibliography, Mongolian literature, and I think the biggest literature about camel is here in Mongolian, so yeah, I'm working on it with Terma, actually. There. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.